Sean talk to Reggie.
Hey everyone, we're here at PAX West 2022, and I'm joined by former head of Nintendo, Reggie.
There he is.
Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Absolutely, great to spend some time with you. This is my first day here at PAX, and I just came out of the panel that I did with Rogue talking.
He doesn't look like he's aged, like at all. Insane.
About indie development. So I haven't even set foot on the floor yet. So I'm looking forward to doing that later on today.
Speaking of the panel, I would love to hear how you got connected with Rogue. What made you want to talk to them about indie games?
Sure. So I know a number of the principals from Rogue, and I've known them just about from my entire career within the video game industry. It was through those personal relationships that as I retired from Nintendo, they reached out really asking me to get involved in helping them take Rogue, helping them from a business management standpoint, thinking about the industry and where the industry is going, but also helping them think about their burgeoning relationships with a number of different platforms, whether it's Netflix or other areas that they're looking to bring their progressive content.
Speaking of like emerging markets, is there any like new tech, maybe metaverse, VR that has you interested?
So I was wondering why that looked so shitty.
I find when we're talking about metaverse, we really need to be clear what it is that we're talking about, because I'm old enough to remember that people love to put .com on the end of a business just to try and make
it
not
for a living
30 years ago. And so when I think about the metaverse, for me, it's an environment where you've got a range of different experiences, you've got a common currency, the environment is progressive in terms of what you can do and the things that you can participate in. As I think of the metaverse, there are early examples of it today. Whether you look at Roblox, whether you look at the work that Fortnite and Epic are doing, it's going to continue to become more and more immersive. I do believe it's going to be gaming led. I don't believe that it has to have an element of VR in order to be the metaverse. I actually believe that augmented reality is going to progress much further and much faster. I'm a much bigger proponent, in part because I've seen great AR experiences brought to the consumer. I haven't yet.
Have you guys seen great AR experiences? I don't know that I have. I'm sure he's probably seen like ideas and like tech that I haven't seen. I don't know. I guess I just haven't been impressed with AR at all. So.
Yet seen that wonderful VR.
Define great. Is AR on the same level as VR? I would say no. VR can be kind of like a transcendental experience, right? The first time you do it. I don't think AR has ever been more than a cute little toy. So, I guess that would be my definition for great. Is there any AR thing game that if it wasn't done with AR, Google Glass is the perfect example, actually. Google Glass, remember that, I don't know if you guys remember, at E3 there was a presentation and they were doing like a Minecraft thing where he was like building shit on just like an empty table. It was like, and it's obviously kind of a fake AR thing. It was like scripted and everything like that. And it was just for the presentation, but like, the HoloLens, that idea is what I call great. I would call that a transcendental experience with AR that I don't think exists. Because like what they're showing on screen here is what I think AR is right now. And like it's cute, but obviously Reggie knows something I don't, or has seen stuff that like maybe I haven't seen, or maybe like you guys have seen it and I haven't. I don't think AR is close. I think it has the potential, but I don't see what he sees, what he's when he's talking here personally.
Brought to the consumer. I haven't yet seen that wonderful VR experience that I find compelling.
Really?
Same lines. What's your take on NFTs?
So I believe that blockchain as a piece of technology can be interesting, but it has to provide value to the player, right? It can't just be a new way of monetizing. There needs to be something inherently positive for the player for this as technology to take off. So I'm not for or against NFTs. I want to see an example that really adds value.
That's fair.
And I have to say, I haven't yet seen that example.
Yeah,
Looking
that's
back
fair.
at Nintendo, do you have a specific accomplishment you're particularly proud of?
You know, I was there for 15 years, and whether it was the launch and long-term success of Nintendo DS, 150 plus million devices sold, almost 1 billion games published for that platform. The Wii was another huge success, over 100 million devices.
Ask him if his body is ready.
And I'm proud to have been there for the early years of the Nintendo Switch. And I do believe the Switch will be absolutely one of the best-selling platforms for Nintendo. I'm not sure if it'll beat the 152 million of the Nintendo DS. I would say those are the three things that I'm proud to say I was part of during.
If you count Pokemon Go as AR, it's probably bigger than VR, more widely adopted. Yes, you're 100% correct. The rebuttal is how many people play Pokemon Go as an AR experience and not just like the fake in-game screen. Like how many people actually use it as an AR thing, right? And I don't necessarily consider that great, but like maybe transcendental. I don't know. It's weird because the thing that made Pokemon Go great isn't the fact that you can see your shitty little Pokemon on your dashboard of your car or something that you're catching. It's that it forced you to go out and interact with the world in a positive way, right? Which is kind of like an AR experience anyway. I don't know. It's weird. Whatever. I'll give it to you. Yes, Pokemon Go probably is the most transcendental AR experience out there.
My time at Nintendo.
Kind of the flip of that, was there a pie in the sky idea or maybe something that didn't quite get off the ground that you still wish could have happened?
You know, I thought Labo was going to be this fantastic idea, and it wasn't just the cardboard.
We all did, Reggie. We all thought it was a cool idea. The problem is that at the end of the day, it's fucking cardboard.
Element, but the very innovative element of that platform and the ability for everyday players to, if you will, tinker with it and go behind the scenes. I thought
it was cool.
Much bigger than
it was junk,
so
but
Nintendo
it was
went
cool.
From dedicated handheld and home console to the combination that is the Switch. Do you think they would ever separate them again?
I don't know, right? So at this point, I'm like any other passionate fan of the company, wondering, trying to figure out where the company goes next. I think that the company certainly has seen a lot of benefit from having all of their development activity focused on one platform versus having it support two different platforms. So I think that's going to be very.
Hear me out though. Nintendo Switch, but a more professional model. I don't know what you would call it, but I'm just spitballing here.
Difficult to walk away from, but
Dead is actually
Nintendo's
triggered.
A company that is always looking at the same marketplace that everyone else sees, but is approaching it somewhat differently. And so I think you can never say never with that company in terms of what it is that they could do.
You really embraced a public persona while there. How has it been stepping back from that a bit?
The fact that I was, one of, at the time, really three key public faces for the company between Satoru Iwata, Shigeru Miyamoto, and myself.
Iwata.
That happened, and it was unplanned. It was an outcome of, I think, my own personality and my passion for games.
My name is Reggie. I'm about kicking ass. I'm about taking names, and we're about making games.
But also the fact that it was really important that the company have a face in the Western markets that could communicate with the fan base, communicate with all of our different business partners. And because it was so ingrained in my personality, that element continues to this day. So, having done a panel here at PAX and trying to get back for this interview, walking through the crowds with all of the fans trying to say hello and trying to engage, I think that's something that's going to be always part of my life moving forward. And it's something that I certainly enjoy, at least within a range. But I continue to be an advocate for the industry. I continue to be an advocate for companies that are trying to do things new and different. And so, I think it's always going to be part of who I am.
I was reading your book, and one part that stuck out was business culture and emerging business trends. And it made me think about the rising number of unions in the game industry, and I would love kind of your take on that.
Sure. Well, I think it's important to step back and really think about what does a worker need in order for that part of their life to be fulfilled. Well, the first thing they need is
Monster Energy.
Economic stability, right?
Oh,
they
right.
need to know that they have a job. They need to know that they're going to have a paycheck. The second thing they need is they need economic mobility, meaning so when as a worker you're ready to grow and ready to take on that next big challenge, the company needs to provide that.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that workers need is that they need to be recognized at their workplace. There needs to be not only the basics of safety, but there needs to be emotional rewards provided by the job and by the employer. I believe that when one of those three needs aren't being met, then you have a problem. And that is where we've seen unions step in, and not only in the gaming industry, but across all other industries and situations. Specifically within gaming, you see that when you have a workforce that doesn't have a stable work schedule, or they feel that they're not being paid adequately, or they're being forced to relocate and their relocation expenses aren't being reimbursed. I mean, these are the behaviors that have given rise to a push for unionization at different developers and different situations. So, from my perspective, as an employer, you need to satisfy those three base requirements of your workforce. And when you don't, then you run the risk of a number of different challenges, unionization being just one. You could also have situations where you have a workforce that is completely demoralized, where you have a situation where you have a high level of churn in your workforce. These are all bad things as a leader thinks about their workforce. So I am neither for nor against unionization. I think unionization is an output that happens when those three core needs of a worker aren't being fulfilled.
Over the last year or two, we've seen a lot of acquisitions in the game space, Microsoft with Activision, the Embracer Group. Is this good for the industry?
You can point to very specific mergers or acquisitions, and I do believe that there is something positive to come for the player. And the example that I would use is Take-Two and Zynga coming together. I think in the end, that's going to have positive output for the player and for the consumer. And I say that because Take-Two has all of these wonderful franchises, but they've really never been successful in the mobile space. And so now, if you can imagine the best of their...
Now we can make all their cool shit into terrible little free-to-play gacha games that really milk you for all you're worth. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother.
Now having a really strong mobile experience, I think that would be wonderful. And I think a number of their fans would really say that that is a positive outcome. The other piece that I would highlight, I do believe as these large acquisitions and mergers happen, I do believe that it's going to spur a boon in the independent developer community. And I say that because oftentimes these mergers are happening and the focus is going to be on those big franchises. Well, game developers love to create things that are new, that are different. And I'm convinced that a number of senior developers...
I think this is true, especially when you notice that with Blizzard Entertainment, after Activision took over and all the shit happened or whatever, when contracts were up, you see all of these bigwigs from Blizzard break off, quit Blizzard, and then move on to do their own studio or whatever. So I definitely, yeah. It's kind of interesting too, because I think it plays into this idea that one of the like pillars that he was talking about of always kind of like being able to move to the next thing is like important for a worker. When you get to the highest level, I think that's why we see so many people that were like CEOs of their own company or like did some giant merger or whatever, just go back to grassroots. Is like, no, he's programming again. He's just sitting at a desk with like 3 other dudes he met at Activision or EA or whatever, and they're just biting away at the new thing they want to do and test out. Like, it's interesting. I've never kind of considered how like that relationship is, specifically with gaming, because there's like an end product that we can see afterwards, right?
Developers are going to end up leaving these mega industry players and
Right.
going off and creating their own studios and bringing to life that creative idea that's stuck in the back of their head. I think we're going to see another renaissance of this great independent developer content.
Last question for you. What are you playing these days?
So I continue to play on my Switch.
Don't say Pikmin.
I've got a PS5 in my house. I've got a Xbox Series X on the way. I play a lot of mobile content as well. I'm playing a lot of Diablo Immortal.
Oh
right
my
now.
God.
And, I'm playing it not only because I love the franchise, but I really want to see what they're doing from a monetization standpoint. And there's been...
You know what I like about Reggie? Actually, I'm gonna rewind it here because I'm sure he's gonna go into it. I really like how interested he is in the business aspect of things and how open he's talking about that, because people always talk about the fucking, oh, we gotta like give fans what they want, or like we have the best artist, or we gotta like do the cool new thing to this IP or push the tech. And nobody ever talks about how like, yeah, Diablo Immortal's interesting because the way they're monetizing this thing has interesting like ripples right through the industry. And he's totally right. It has, and it's going to have and continue to have. I wish this wasn't only 12 minutes long. God damn it. I wish there was more of this discussion.
Diablo Immortal right now. And, I'm playing it not only because I love the franchise, but I really want to see what they're doing from a monetization standpoint. And there's been a lot of negative reaction to the monetization happening, but I want to see how they've approached it. Again, from an industry perspective, how that's done, how it can be done well is something that's important for me to see. So, I continue to play a lot of games. I was a gamer before I was an employee at Nintendo, so I enjoy playing my gaming content.
Sean, you missed out on asking how much he spent on Diablo Immortal. I need to know, how many legendary gems do you have, Reggie? Are you full slotted? I bet this motherfucker's full slotted. He's got all the best. He's got the legendary everything. God damn it, Sean. Honestly, dope ass interview.
Yeah, I thought about that too. Perhaps that was the most important part.